ezCapacity is a decision support tool which you can use either on your laptop, as we can see here, or on a mobile phone. This is an iPhone 6 representation. And what the app provides to us is the ability to see work centers grouped by a specific grouping that you can define. And this can be a group across SAP plants, company codes, etc. So there's no limitation on how you can group SAP work centers together in a group. In this example, we can see here the groups. We've grouped work centers in medium, extra large, small, and large machines. And what the grouping does, it actually goes and checks all the capacity for the underlying work centers, and it rolls up the capacity available, which is this number here, for this particular period. So at the moment we're looking at a 3-month period. You can change this, and this is master data, so you can also change these periodic buckets. What it also does, it goes and looks at all the underlying orders or demand that is on that work center. So whether that's a production order, a maintenance order, an internal order, etc. This graph at the moment is showing us the total capacity available. So that's this blue line here, that's the max capacity available. And then the green bar shows us what the current load is. And that's where this 41% over there and over here comes from. You can toggle this display by clicking this button down here. And this will now change it to a percentage bar. So we can now see the blue bar is 100%. And the green bar here is now showing me my 41% or my 29%. And my total hours available is displayed here. So it now does a bit of a calculation to see what the difference between capacity available and load is to give you your hours available. You can also sort here. So the sorting happens by the number you see here. So if I sort the opposite way, I can now see that my small machines has got out of this 3,380 hours available, only 6 hours is being used. So that's they're not very well utilized. So is my large and double X large machines. I can sort it the other way to then see what's my highest loads. The other last button on this screen is if I only want to see areas of problems, so I can switch that on, and it will now only display items where I do have some load problem. Now, as you can see here, we are only 41% loaded, but I've got this red exclamation mark. And that means that as a group of work centers, we're doing okay. We're only 41% loaded, but we do have a problem further down the line, whether it's in a specific plant or a specific work center or even on a specific day. So we'll look at an example in a minute. Also, from here, I can jump directly to my work centers. So this will display me a list of all the work centers that I have access to. So there's also an authorization concept, so you can limit users to specific plants, and then that will only show the work centers in that person's plant. So here we can see now all the work centers, and similarly I can sort this, so I can see my highest load. That work center at the moment is this one in the Lima plant with an 82% load. And again, you can obviously sort it, change the scale, or you can sort it to see what's the machines that's got no work at the moment. And then we have a secondary grouping. So this one we just called shops, but that could be any other kind of grouping. So for example, what we've done here is we've grouped countries together. So here we can now see in Peru, for example, there's 3 plants. So you can see the load across all 3 of those plants here. And in Chile, I think there's 5 plants. So here you can see the load across all 5 of those plants. The other important thing is only the work centers that's been activated in ezCapacity will be shown here. And that also applies to the work center capacity. So if a work center has got say 2 capacities, machine and labor capacity, you can define which one you want to display here, and that's what's here in brackets. So I can see what we're displaying here is the machine capacity. So if you wanted to show the labor capacity in Peru as well, then you'll have another line here which says Peru labor and Chile labor. So I'll go back to the groups, and let's drill down into this extra large machines where we can see 29% load, but we do have some situation somewhere. So drill down into that. It shows me that group, so you can see here the group is called RP30. So this is the key that you define in master data. So that's rubber shop and plate and size 3 meter. And I can see this group has got 2 sets of work centers, one set in the Lima plant and one in the Santiago plant. And we can see here again across Lima, the Lima plant, and you can see this is the plant. Across Lima plant, we only 54% loaded, but we still have a problem somewhere. So go down into that one. I can now see my work centers in that group we've been looking at in my specific plant. So there's my plant number. And I can now see my specific work center. So this is the actual work center name in the backend system. I can see we 54% loaded on that work center, but we still have a problem somewhere. So if we go down into that work center, I can start looking at my work center details. So I can see here my grouping for shop. This is the Peru country. There's my group, my plant, my current load, and then my planned versus committed. So planned is seen as orders that's not been given to the production floor. So this will include any MRP generated planned orders, as well as production orders in created status. Once the production order is released, it goes under committed. So we can see that at the moment there's nothing planned, but there is 600 hours worth of orders being released to the floor. And that is the orders that you see down here. So you can see the kind of order. So this is a production order. If it was a planned order, it will be displayed there, or even a maintenance work order or a service order, whatever is assigned to that work center will come up here. That's the description of the material that we are producing. And if this was a make to order, a production order, we will also see the customer name below here. The 10th of October is the due date for that operation. And I can click into this and actually see a bit more detail. So there's my material number. This is all my order statuses with the quantity on the order. And that's the particular operation where this work center is being required. And I've got my earliest and latest start and finish dates. Some other information on here. So overall, as a work center, I'm doing fine because I'm only using about half of my available capacity. But however, I can see here that I do have some overdue orders. So these are orders with a due date of today or into the past that has not been confirmed. And the reason we don't influence the fine is because these, as in many cases, could purely be that the actual transactions has not been completed for yesterday's production, for example, to actually reduce the capacity that's required on those orders. So here you can see that you've got a potential issue that you just need to address over there. So if we did have a overload on this work center, we can go and look at my alternatives. So it does tell me that there is another work center, this number in the Santiago plant, which has only got a load of 1%. So you could load some of that to another plant. There's 107 hours available there on that work center. If I look at my details, this is information coming straight out of the work center and capacity header information. So I can see things like the location and the person responsible, and then my standard available capacity of the capacity header. The shift information on the capacity is shown down here. And this is also where I can now see there's a red bar, and that's why we had the red exclamation mark earlier. So although I'm doing fine all these days. On my very last day here, I can click on that. I can then see there on the 28th of November, I have got only 18.34 hours available, but there's a required load of 123. So you can now make some decisions. If I look at bringing it forward, I can see it's still quite loaded. So, I don't really have much opportunity to bring any of that work forward. I can, however, push it out, which then, of course, would mean the order will be delayed. The other alternative is, of course, we can see that this plant's got availability. It might not make sense to move something from Peru to Santiago halfway through the process, but there might be situations where it makes sense. But here I can then see my shift information, and again I can see the blue bar is the available capacity, the green bar is the current load, and you can see there it's displayed over there as well. And I can click on that to actually see my shift information for that particular day. So this shows me a 24-hour shift with that break length, and it tells me the utilization or the efficiency that's been defined for that work center. And then there's only one machine in that day allocated there. So that is a summary of how I can look at the demand across my work centers. One last thing here is you can see this is a hyperlink. So if this work center does have another capacity defined, it will be displayed here. So if there was labor, for example, that would be in there as well.